6 years after the divorce, Anna no longer measured her life in dramatic turns but in gentle routines. Morning came early in their small apartment, announced by Leo's alarm clock playing a cheerful tune that never failed to make her smile. She braided his hair with practiced fingers, packed his lunch, and listened to his excited chatter about school projects and weekend plans. This was her world now, simple, predictable, and hard-won. Pain had shaped it, but peace had sealed it. The café sat on the corner of a narrow street, its windows fogged from warmth inside and cold rain outside. Anna loved it for its anonymity. No one asked questions here. The barista knew Leo's order by heart and never commented on Anna's habit of staring into her cup as if reading the future in its dark surface. As she pushed the door open, a small bell chimed, welcoming them into the comforting hush of clinking cups and low conversation. The smell of roasted beans wrapped around her like a familiar coat. Leo squeezed her hand tighter, tugging her toward the pastry display. "Mom, look, they have the chocolate muffins again," he whispered, as if afraid they might disappear if spoken aloud. She laughed softly, nodding, and led him forward. Outside, rain traced slow lines down the glass, blurring the city into a watercolor of gray and silver. She didn't scan the room. She never did. Habit, maybe, or instinct. After years of learning how to survive, she'd mastered the art of looking only where she needed to. She missed the tall man seated in the corner booth, the one with the unmistakable posture of someone used to command. Missed the way his phone lay untouched beside a cup of cooling espresso. Missed the moment his gaze lifted, drawn by a child's laugh that sounded hauntingly familiar. Anna ordered their drinks, her voice calm, her shoulders relaxed. In her mind, this was just another morning before school, another quiet victory over a past that had once nearly broken her. She believed, with a certainty born of exhaustion, that the life she'd built was safely sealed off from the one she'd left behind. Behind her, unseen, Daniel froze. The billionaire who owned towers of glass and steel felt something shatter inside him at the sound of her voice. 6 years disappeared in an instant. He didn't move, didn't breathe, afraid that if he did, the fragile illusion might vanish. And in that brief, suspended moment, before recognition, before truth, fate leaned closer, preparing to turn an ordinary morning into something neither of them could escape. Leo slipped his hand from Anna's and bounced ahead, sneakers squeaking softly against the tiled floor. The pastry case glowed like a treasure chest, and he pressed his nose to the glass. "Mom, can I get the chocolate one? Please?" he asked, already sure of the answer. Anna smiled despite herself. "One muffin," she said, "and then we sit." His voice carried, clear, bright, unmistakably confident. It cut through the cafe's gentle murmur and landed hard in the corner booth. The man there stiffened, fingers tightening around porcelain. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he turned toward the sound. What he saw made the room tilt. The curve of the boy's smile. The dark eyes. The exact way he leaned forward, curious and fearless. Daniel's breath caught. He had seen that expression before, in a mirror, years ago. Anna felt the shift before she understood it. A prickle crept up her spine, the strange sensation of being watched. She turned, cup half paid for, and time collapsed. Daniel stood there, taller than she remembered, lines etched deeper around his eyes, but unmistakable. The man who had once promised forever and delivered absence instead. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. For a second, neither of them moved. Wealth, power, resentment, none of it mattered in that suspended breath. Leo returned, clutching his muffin like a prize. "Mom," he whispered, leaning close, "that man keeps staring at us." His small voice broke the spell. Anna swallowed hard and lowered herself to his level. "Eat your muffin," she said gently, smoothing his hair. "We're just having breakfast." She stood, straightening her coat, building walls she'd perfected over years of survival. Daniel took a step forward, then stopped, uncertain. He wasn't used to hesitation. Boardrooms bent to his will, markets shifted at his command. But here, faced with the life he'd unknowingly left behind, he was unarmed. His gaze returned to the boy, and understanding settled like a weight in his chest. The timing, the resemblance, the truth he had never thought to question. Anna met his eyes again, this time without flinching. There was no anger there, only caution, and something colder, resolve. She had learned to live without him. Whatever this moment was becoming, she would not let it undo the fragile peace she'd built for her son. Around them, cups clinked and the espresso machine hissed, oblivious. But between Anna and Daniel, the past had risen, undeniable and alive, standing just a few steps away, holding a chocolate muffin and smiling, unaware that his very existence had just rewritten everything. Daniel approached the table cautiously, each step measured as though the floor itself might betray him. The café, warm and familiar, seemed to shrink around him, spotlighting the two figures he had tried for years to forget, or perhaps, tried not to notice. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on Anna and Leo. "Anna," he said, his voice low, almost reverent. Her name sounded like a memory he had carried in silence, a delicate fragment of a life he had walked away from. Anna didn't rise. She kept her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, a shield against sudden storms. Her eyes, calm but alert, measured him. She had imagined this moment countless times, what he would say, how he might try to bridge the 6-year chasm, but now that it was here, she realized imagination had never prepared her for reality. Leo, oblivious to the tension, looked at the man curiously, muffin crumbs on his lips. Daniel's gaze softened, settling on the boy with the first trace of vulnerability he had felt in years. "He's mine, isn't he?" Daniel asked, barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, trembling, and Anna nodded, steady, unflinching. The years of absence, the lost birthdays, the scraped knees she had bandaged alone, all reflected in that nod. She began to recount moments he had missed. Leo's first steps, the hospital nights, the small victories that had become their life. She spoke not with accusation, but with the quiet authority of someone who had carried a world alone. Daniel listened, the luxury of wealth meaningless in the face of time lost. His polished world of skyscrapers and contracts offered no guidance here. Regret clawed at him. Not for money, not for status, but for absence. His voice, usually steady, wavered. I didn't know," he said, and for the first time, words failed him. What he had never realized, the real cost of his choices, was staring him in the eyes, brown and defiant, wearing the innocence and trust he had forfeited. Around them, life continued. The barista steamed milk, the door chimed as customers entered, laughter and conversation filling the room. But the moment between the tables was suspended, a fragile bubble of truth. Anna's words, Daniel's presence, Leo's quiet curiosity, it all collided, demanding acknowledgement. Finally, Daniel knelt to Leo's level, careful and hesitant, offering a hand. "I'm Daniel," he said softly, testing the name in the air, unsure if he had the right. I think I might be someone important to you." Leo studied him for a long moment, eyes wide, evaluating. Then, with the candid simplicity only a child could wield, he asked, "Do you like soccer?" Anna watched, heart twisting with hope and fear. This was not a reunion of the past, it was the first step toward a new reality. Boundaries would have to be redrawn, rules rewritten, and trust rebuilt, but for the first time in 6 years, the possibility of connection shimmered in the sunlight spilling through the cafe windows. Time had not healed all wounds, but it had prepared them to face this one together. Anna expected the scene to unfold like a familiar story in her mind. Apologies, excuses, promises that would ultimately dissolve into words as empty as the coffee cups surrounding them. But Daniel had come unarmed. Not with arguments, not with wealth or influence, but with a tentative honesty that unsettled her. He knelt slowly, careful not to startle Leo, who tilted his head in curiosity. "I'm Daniel," he repeated softly, as if saying it aloud might make it real. "I think I might be someone important to you." Leo considered him for a moment, dark eyes assessing, serious beyond his years. Then, with a small grin, he asked the question that changed everything, "Do you like soccer?" The simplicity of it, the childlike, fearless clarity, disarmed them both. Anna felt a laugh rise in her throat, half amusement, half relief. This wasn't about the past, it wasn't about bitterness or lost years. It was about the present, and the possibility of a future they had never dared imagine. Daniel nodded eagerly. "I love soccer," he said, matching Leo's grin. For the first time in years, he felt a connection that couldn't be bought, couldn't be negotiated. It was raw, immediate, and human. Anna watched the exchange, feeling her heart loosen the tight knot it had carried for 6 years. This man, the one who had once been her world and then vanished, was here now, trying not to break the fragile bubble she had built around her son. The café, once ordinary and predictable, became a stage for subtle reconciliation. Daniel asked gentle questions, not probing or intrusive, but enough to show curiosity and sincerity. Leo responded with openness, slowly warming to the stranger who had suddenly stepped into his life. Anna stayed quiet, observing, weighing, learning. She realized she didn't need to rush into forgiveness or rekindle old emotions. What mattered was trust, small gestures, and honesty, the building blocks of a relationship she had thought forever lost. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under soft sunlight. The light spilled through the cafe windows, reflecting off the wooden tables and polished counters, bathing the room in warmth. Anna took a deep breath, letting the sunlight mingle with the cautious hope rising in her chest. Today wasn't about rewriting history. Today was about taking the first steps toward something new, uncharted, and possibly beautiful. She reached for Leo's hand, squeezing it gently. Daniel, still kneeling, looked at her with a mixture of hope and humility. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring. More questions, boundaries, perhaps awkward conversations, but for the first time, all three of them were in the same room, ready to face it together. And for Anna, that was enough. This wasn't the ending she had expected. It was something better. A chance at a future they could shape, one honest, tentative step at a time.